Greetings, people of Earth. Welcome to the Rick Richards Show. I am your host, Rick Richards, and actually this is the COVID Chronicles, where we update you not only on the progress of the COVID-19 virus, but more importantly, or as importantly, all the ramifications that come about on this this completely earth-shattering, life-changing, society-changing series of events, right? That's what it is. So welcome. This is the evening cast, and I'm going to take a shot of Blue Monster. Tight. Let's do some shout-outs. Shout out to Ivan from Sector B49, my boy Ivan. Our producer, of course, Dave Darnley, Charlene, Dwayne, Chad, Jackson, and I know you're out there. Terry, Diana, the Donger, Long Duck Dong, Kim, Tanya, Julie, Tammy, special friend of the show, Lisa, and whoever else is out there and wants to join in. Make sure you hit a thumbs up, hit subscribe. I'm going to be doing this for the original plan was to do this for 2 weeks to coincide with the isolation period here in the isolation chamber. But I got a feeling things aren't ending. I was planning on doing this until April 3rd, but I have a feeling that the situation is not going to be any better come April 3rd. So we'll see. Maybe I'll change the show. Maybe I'll keep doing it. Maybe I'll stop. Maybe I'll do 1 show a day. Maybe 3 shows a day. You guys let me know. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see, what topics you would like me to cover, and any other suggestions. Because that is what I am going to be doing tonight. After we go through our updates, I'm going to be covering some conspiracy theories. First of all, let's get to the updates. Let's see what's happening in the world with this nasty, shitty, goddamn virus. Okay, so let's refresh. And I think, okay. So globally, we have 527,835 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. This has resulted in 23,937 deaths. And 123,337 people have recovered. The death to the recovery ratio seems really bad. That would be about 1 in 6 people, which is really high. But one thing we do have to take into consideration is that there are a lot of people that aren't actually diagnosed and recover. Total cases and total deaths, we still see this on this linear scale. And we can see the exponential nature of the virus in the way it grows. And it shows no signs of slowing down. And those of you that watched the morning show, I went over the rule of 72. Wow, this shirt really trips out on the screen, doesn't it? The rule of 72. So basically, to recap that, the number of times a number will go into 72 is the number of days or whatever that it takes you to double it. For example, if the number of deaths is increasing by 10% every day, then the total number of deaths will double in 7.2 days. If you invest in a stock that pays 36% a year, 36 goes into 72 twice, so that stock will double in 2 years, right? So that's one of the things we can look at when we look at these numbers here, right? Okay, so, and rather than cases are, the accuracy, it goes off quite a bit because of testing. More testing will mean more cases. Less testing will mean fewer cases in general. So we're looking at the deaths, right? And the deaths should become more accurate as time goes on. The US, 155 new deaths. The US accurate number will stay away from that because they update it several times throughout the day. Italy is a good one because Italy does one update per day. And the number of new deaths, it's kind of stabilizing, but it's actually shrinking as a proportion. And I'll show you what I mean. So Italy has been getting up around 700 deaths or less. It had gone down, but then it spiked back up a little bit for probably the last week now. But if we look, 712, divide that by 8,215, that's 8.6%. So 72 divided by 8.6 means that it now takes about 8.5 days for the death count to double. So that's slowing down actually a bit. It used to be 6 days. It was doubling. The death count was doubling every 6 days. And one of the things we want to look for is this new deaths, whether it's more or less than 10%. For example, Spain, let's do Spain now. 718 deaths divided by 4,365 total deaths is 16.4%. So 72 divided by 16.4 equals 6 days. So there we are at that 6-day number. So the death count in Spain should double in about 6 days if that stays consistent. You can see the new deaths has outpaced Italy as well. Germany, the death rate is creeping up. See, in Germany, let's take a look at that one. Last one, I promise. I know people don't like math. Some of us do, but so 61 divided by 267 equals 22.8. That's an extremely high number. 72 divided by 22.8 equals 3.1. So the death rate in Germany is going to double every 3 days, just over 3 days at this current pace. So what day is it today? Today is, forgot the date, didn't I? Today is Thursday, March 26, 2020. So we would expect the evening of March 29th, the Germany should be over 500 total deaths. All right. And as a number is smaller, you would expect the exponential rate to be higher. You would expect the growth rate to be higher. UK is still going at a pretty fast clip here. I mean, the United States, God, the United States now has the most cases in the world. Their death rate is a little bit slower, though. Maybe they're getting better care. That we don't really know. New York, 37,000. You know, if New York was a country, I think that would be the 5th highest in the world for infections. And the death rate in New York is still very high. You can see that's just, 1938. That's about 20%, right? Or sorry, that's about 5%. So that's pretty good, actually. Yeah, that's about 5%. New Jersey's is high. Yeah, New Jersey's is really high. All right, so let's see what's happening in our own country. Let's see what they got here for Canada, and then we'll see how it matches up against global. Canada, we are closing in on 4,000 cases, 3 new deaths, less than 10%. So our death rate is going up very slowly. I mean, you can see our numbers are in much better control. And I think this is probably a result of Canada is an easier country to practice social isolation. Just by the way, you look at all the places where the outbreak is the most severe, and it tends to be a really compact area, right? Northern Italy is very high density. China obviously is. So, as of March 26th, there's 3,874 confirmed cases in Canada. Ontario has announced 170 new cases. Quebec's cases have spiked to 1,629, and that is a massive jump that they've had in the last week. And I have told you, if you are a faithful viewer of the show, that the reason for this is they now have more efficient testing in Quebec. Which begs the question: why does Quebec get all the tests? Right? They have a single lab that's now doing the testing. I don't know what the situation is in the other province. It doesn't really say. British Columbia, our total is 617, and most of the deaths here have been old people. And it still is very much the case that that this virus affects old people or people with underlying health conditions. Really, 70 years old seems to be the real cutoff. Once you get past 70 years old, it seems to be extremely dangerous, and much less so for people under 70 at this point. And that could change. That's one of the things I personally am watching very closely, and that is to see whether there's just a longer incubation period in younger people, or whether the virus mutates. And one important information to know about this virus is that it's there. So there's DNA and then there's RNA, and I won't get into the details between the difference between DNA, which most of you will have heard of, and RNA. They're both living things in essence, but RNA replicates and mutates much faster, and that's the case with this virus. It mutates way faster than than anything else. So there we go. That is British Columbia. So the thing the deep dive that I wanted to do tonight was on some of the conspiracy theories that are floating around. I was going to do a top 10 list, but you know what? Actually, that would just take too long to go through because they're really coming fast and furious now. And first of all, let's say this: a conspiracy theory. That's a derogatory term, actually, and it's designed to discredit something. All a conspiracy is several people, more than one person, getting together to misinform people or do something secretive. So, are people conspiring? Yeah, all the time. Do conspiracies exist? Of course. Of course, it's one of the staples of human existence, I would say. But I mean, this thing of combining the two, conspiracy theory, it kind of gives the impression of some kook, sitting in his basement concocting some, crazy notion. And that's not the case at all. I don't like that because conspiracies happen all the time. People are always scheming. They're always plotting. They're always looking to gain profit at the expense of someone else, or gain something, or power, or control, or whatever it is. So conspiracies are very much a part of the world we live in, very much a part of life. So having said that, though, there are true and accurate conspiracies, and there are, of course, false conspiracies. So we are going to take a look at just a few of them. Let's start off with this one. So this is one of the conspiracies I've heard is that, and this this actually seemed kind of interesting to me as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of celebrities that have gotten this COVID-19. Like, I don't remember the last time that I've seen so many celebrities afflicted by an illness so quickly and so publicly. That's not to say it doesn't happen, but I certainly don't remember this with swine flu or Ebola or anything else. And now, part of the conspiracy is that, or the theory is that these people are being used as influencers to come out and control public opinion. So Is that true? I don't know. I mean, we know that a celebrity, anytime a celebrity is afflicted with something, that lends a lot of credence to whatever they are afflicted with. So we know it's a very valuable tool, whether it's being done, and of course it's being done in a manipulative way. I guess anytime somebody comes out to do that, they're trying to influence something, right? The question is whether they are falsely misleading you. So here's something I found.
Well, we work with influencers because we think that people trust their influencers more than they trust many other sources, including news sources, including governments, including ministries of health, and including their own families. So we're trying to tap into the people who have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers and trying to get them to spread the word. Well, we work with...
Okay, so this guy is from the World Health Organization, and he admits they use influencers to alert the masses to medical pandemics. So that's something they, I mean, this kind of gets into the area of, okay, so they like to use celebrities to influence people, but how do they go find celebrities to influence people? Like, are they looking for them to test them? Are they getting a hold of them once they've been tested? So, I mean, this does kind of open things up a little bit. And of course, on the heels of this, Idris Elba angrily denies stupid celebrity coronavirus conspiracy theory. So this guy, if you haven't seen him, I mean, he's been in the Fast and the Furious, a few other pictures from Universal. He's a celebrity, fairly well known. I don't know if he's like top of the box office, but pretty high up there. So he was one of the early people, if you recall, that came out and he came out on social media, on Instagram, and talked about how he had tested positive for the virus. And what was kind of odd about this was he did the post with his wife in the background, who hadn't been tested and was free of the virus. So, I mean, if the point you're trying to make is that you should be social isolating, then it would have made a lot more sense if you didn't do that with somebody that hadn't been infected. So there we go. So there's a celebrity that's denying this. Okay. What else can we see here? Here are a list of celebrities that have the virus. And like I said, I don't think I can remember a single time when so many prominent people had been afflicted by a virus this quickly and this publicly. And okay, so first of all, we have government officials: Carmen Salvo, Prince Charles, Abba Chiari, Rand Paul, the Republican senator, Prince Albert of Monaco, Michael Barnier, the European Union's chief Brexit negotiator, Bento Albuquerque, Augusto Heleno is a national security advisor in Brazil. Antonio Monteiro, Jeremy Issacharoff, Israel's ambassador to Germany, Friedrich Merz, a 64-year-old politician from Germany, Kozo Tashima, the head of Japan's Football Association, Nadine Dorries, a minister in the United Kingdom's Health Department, Peter Dutton. Am I crazy, or is this a lot of government people? Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, Bigona Gomez, Quinn Tora, and on and on and on and on and on. I won't read them all off because honestly, my jaw would be sore. Film celebrities: Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson. Yeah, they were one of the first ones. Who knows what's happened to them? Louis Sepulveda, don't know him. Olga Kurylenko, French actress with a Russian name, I guess. Idris Elba is another one. Christoph Hivu, Game of Thrones actor. Tormund, he played. Actually, two people on the Game of Thrones. That's interesting. Daniel Dae Kim, the South Korean American actor. Placido Domingo. Athletes, we've seen lots of athletes. Jason Collins from the NBA, an unidentified player from the Ottawa Senators, Serhard Goulart, Deportivo Alves, Blaise Matuidi, Danielle Rugani, Rudy Gobert. If you don't know who Rudy Gobert is, he's the guy that held a press conference before he had tested for the virus, and then he made sure he touched all the reporters' microphones. And it would be interesting to follow up with those reporters to see if they had gotten sick, right? As far as I know, there hasn't been a follow-up. Brooklyn Nets, and on and on and on it goes. So I don't know. I got to tell you, I don't really go in for these things. I like to kind of weigh the evidence, and I feel like there is some manipulation going on here. I feel like this is an extremely high amount of celebrities, considering where the virus is at. Now, one possible explanation could be that the virus is extremely widespread, and the rest of us just don't get tested, but these guys do, right? But for that many of them to have been alerted to that this early, especially if they hadn't shown any symptoms, like that Idris Elba didn't have any symptoms, that's awfully strange that they all would have gotten tested so quickly, right? So I don't know. Like with anything that any rumor or anything like that, that we don't actually know. We can just use our best judgment. And in my opinion, where there's smoke, there's fire, and I think there's a little bit of smoke on this issue here. I think there's something, I don't know what it is. Maybe, like I said, I mean, maybe I don't think it's somebody just necessarily bribing them or asking them to come out and lie. Maybe anybody that's been sick has been asked to do this. Maybe they just test way more people. I don't know, but there's something seems off, especially that many government officials have gotten it. Like, I mean, they should be, most of them are flying on private jets. They're not standing in massive crowds of people. I mean, they do go to parties and things like that, but you would think the sanitation there is pretty high, right? So before we move on to another subject, another conspiracy, I want to touch on two more celebrities that have made themselves famous. So here we see a guy in a market in New York, and he decides to spit on the fruit. I'll show you that again. Actually, sorry, that's not New York. That was Italy. But he got mad at somebody, and he decided to spit on some fruit. And somebody just said, "Hey, man, whack." So I guess that's the new bashing that's going on. This is the number one punchable person in society now is the fruit spitter, or the virus spreader, I guess you would call him, right? I thought that was kind of funny because it's such a weird. Let's watch the punch one more time. Like D- for technique, okay? A+ for result. Kind of did it like a hammer. Ah. Anyways, so that idiot got thumped. And this guy, you may have remembered, I mentioned him a few videos back. He's the influencer who lit public toilet and says he's in hospital with coronavirus. So there he is. You can see him licking a toilet. Like, do we have to have people like this in our society? Really? Like, I mean, man. Like, even if there's no virus, do you need to lick a toilet to prove something? Like, fuck, come on, man. He's a social media influencer. This guy's an influencer. Holy shit, man. Do you want this idiot influencing your kids? Man, I hope this coronavirus keeps him out of action for a while. The young man known as Lars, he doesn't look like a Lars, revealed his diagnosis on Sunday. He deleted his tweet, though. "I've tested positive for coronavirus." I posted video of him, or image of him in a hospital bed. He also goes by Gay Shawn Mendes on Twitter. Okay, so I guess he's also gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And he's trying to say he did that to spread awareness of coronavirus. Well, you certainly did that, my friend. You certainly did that. Okay, so that is celebrities. And one other thing I do notice, that's not really tied to celebrities, but it seems that whenever we're looking for something, like whenever we're looking and saying, I haven't seen any health worker, and people start saying, yeah, I haven't seen any health worker get this yet, then the next day, a story pops up where a health worker has gotten sick. Again, I mean, things just are happening fast, so that could be just the scale of the way things are moving, right? All right, so the next Should we call this a rumor or a conspiracy? I don't know. I'll let you be the judge. But the next one I've heard is that blood type has an effect on this. And I have heard that people with blood type O are more resistant to the coronavirus, and other blood types, in particular blood type A, are more susceptible. Now, on the face of it, this sounds like pseudoscience or fake news, right? It does kind of, and yet, this is from Healthline. A recent study from China concluded that people with type A blood may have a higher risk of contracting the new coronavirus than people with type O do. Experts say the research is interesting, but more studies need to be done to verify the results. The experts add that past research has shown some connection between blood type and illnesses such as the stomach flu, as well as the risk of stroke and cognitive impairment. Wow, this is all news to me. I had never heard of any of this before. But yeah, it looks like type O. Don't take this as a sign that you're bulletproof, but it does look like people with blood type O maybe, and it is still yet to be confirmed, but maybe more resistant to COVID-19. A new study suggests people with type A blood might be more susceptible, and people with type O might have more protection against the virus. They don't want people to be complacent, though. Someone on social media this weekend wondered if type O people and families should be the ones sent out for shopping, and they recommend still take precautions. And this just goes into the study. They looked at the blood types of 2,173 people who had been diagnosed with COVID-19 and compared that with blood types of the general population in that region. They found that in the normal population, type A was 31%, type B was 24%, type AB was 9%, and type O was 34%. But in the virus, type A was 38%. So if you were type A, you were more likely 20% more likely to contract the virus. Type B was 26%, which is around equal to its percentage. Type AB was 10%, also around equal, and type O was 25%. So type O was about 20% less likely, maybe about 30% less likely to contract the virus. So the researchers concluded that blood group A had a significantly higher risk for COVID-19 compared with non-A blood groups, whereas blood group O had a significantly lower risk. And the other blood groups, B and AB, are about equal to the population. So, 2,000 people, that's a pretty good sample size for a study, right? And this is a study where you're not going to have a whole lot of variables. So, there we go. Yeah. Things to keep in mind. This doesn't prevent or treat it. But we also need to look at that and realize that people with blood type O did still get the virus, and just at lower rates, right? So, it doesn't mean that you're immune. It just means maybe there is a little bit more resistance than other people may have. So, on the conspiracy that blood types are affected differently, I am going to say yes, not a conspiracy. That's actually true. Tentatively true. More evidence needs to be presented, but I personally am satisfied with a sample size of 2,000 people. I think that's pretty good. Pretty good. So the last one we have, and then we will wrap things up for the evening, is the origin of the virus. And this is a very, very tough one to get to the bottom of. And the reason it's so tough to get to the bottom of is because we can't really verify anything. So there's three possible origins of this virus. There's two possible origins. One origin is from a lab. The other origin is from an animal, a natural versus a man-made environment, right? Okay, those are both possible, right? Now, from a man-made origin, then from there's two possibilities either. One, something was developed as a bioweapon and then deliberately released. Two, something accidentally came out of a lab through cross-contamination or carelessness, or who knows, right? I doubt you're not going to have anybody admit to it at this point, that's for sure. So let's look at the first one. Damn. Okay, the first one is that it's a bioweapon. Well, in the face of it, just on common sense, I really don't see how that, a deliberately targeted bioweapon, I mean, I'm open to these things. I'm open to all these things. But I really don't see, I really don't see the logic in how it's been dispersed or released or whatever, because it seems to be, it's spread everywhere. There's no control over it. I mean, that's like saying, I'm going to detonate a nuclear bomb in my city. Fuck you all. Well, you're getting blown up too, right? So, I mean, that's really just a haphazard way of doing it. And I think if something like this had been developed and had been specifically targeted, there would be some evidence behind it. And I went on to nature.com, and they've had some people looking into this. And they also don't believe it was specifically engineered as a bioweapon because the genetic data irrefutably show that SARS-CoV-2 is not derived from any previously used virus backbone. And that's what they use to develop bioweapons. They use the backbone of an existing virus, and then they modify it to mutate into a certain direction or to react in a certain way, right? Like, let's say you had I don't know, something like Ebola. You would take the backbone of the Ebola virus, and then you would mutate it so that, let's say, it only attacks people that are, say, over 6 feet, right? That's how you would engineer a bioweapon, and they see no evidence that it was derived from a backbone virus. Okay, so we can probably, not 100%, but we can probably diminish the possibility that it was designed as a bioweapon. So the other two scenarios are natural selection in an animal host before zoonotic transfer. And zoonotic transfer means it jumps from one animal, from the origin animal to another animal, and then from there to a human, right? And then the other would be possibly released by accident. But it's, let me scroll down to the bottom here. Let's get to the conclusions. So, in the midst of the global health emergency, it's reasonable to wonder what the origins of the pandemic are and why they matter. Now, one thing that has been noted is this virus has not been found in bats, right? And I mean, they believe the origin was from a wet market derived from bats that zoonotically, or that transferred to other animals, right? Or directly, I guess, into humans. This virus hasn't been identified yet in bats, but the number of bat viruses is very limited. The known number of bat viruses is very limited. So it just could mean that they haven't, I mean, maybe they only have 10% of the total number of bat viruses sequenced or identified, and it could be in the other 90, right? So in addition, identifying the closest viral relatives of the SARS-CoV-2 circulating in animals will greatly assist studies of viral function. Indeed, the availability of the RATG13 bat sequence helped reveal key RBD mutations in the polybasic cleavage site. So they have used viruses in bats to kind of determine what the key mutations are and which cells it binds to. So the other possibility, of course, is that it was released accidentally, or that it was accidentally transferred. And that would be more of an administrative thing to get to the bottom of, to find out who was working on something like this and in which way it could have accidentally made its way out. But given the I mean, that's given the location of where it started, that's, I think, unlikely. I mean, it did start in the Wuhan district or province or city, and they do have these perfect conditions for creating these viruses. And we have seen similar viruses that have started, and they've all started from kind of a natural transfer from one animal over to another and through China, right? So my call on the origin of the virus is that I'm sticking with the wet market origin, that it came from bats and possibly transferred into other animals in those conditions, and then made its way into humans and has mutated somewhat since then. So that's the origin that I'm most comfortable with. Open to other things if I see compelling evidence. If you have any, please send it on. We will wrap up here. Please subscribe and hit the like button. Let me know what you want to hear, different things you would like me to cover, and I will do so. I have some time now. I can do it. And remember, we're all in this together. Let's stick together. If we're all together, nobody can be against us, okay? So, for this evening of March 26, 2020, I will see you later.